Hello and welcome to Random Tek. On this episode we're going to be discussing the various and some of the more unique ways of printing and labeling CDs. Why? Because it's random. The company which started the more non-traditional way of disc labeling was Yamaha, which introduced the DiscT software in 2002. According to the website, Yamaha's DiscT technology allows the user to burn text and graphics onto the data side of a CD-R disc. This innovative process eliminates the need for cumbersome stick-on labels which peel off in heat, become illegible when wet, or cause the CD to spin unevenly, as well as the use of felt-tip markers that could smear and are unprofessional at best. In a nutshell, this software and drive would allow a user to create a custom text or graphic which would then be etched into the unused data portion of your disk after the data was recorded on. Obviously, not all CDs are created equal, and Yamaha recommended the Azo blue-dyed disc, the less common ones, as the best option, while the most commonly used disc, the phthalocyanide dye, aka the silver and gold disc, as the least favorable. One point to make is that the DiscT technology initially, through Yamaha's own drive, the CRW-F1, only supported CDs, as indicated from the website. However, later drives, through third-party manufacturers, supported DVDs as well. While the initial reviews seem positive for Yamaha's drive itself, the actual DiscT part didn't seem that well received, with users noting excessively long burn times, painful to see graphics and text, and depending on how much data is being recorded to the disk, this could lead to virtually no room left to actually inscribe virtually anything at all. Clearly, a better way was needed. HP delivered this to consumers in early 2004 with the introduction of its LightScribe technology. Unlike DiscT, LightScribe etches on the label side of the disk. From their website, the laser inside a CD or DVD drive with LightScribe technology focuses light energy onto a thin dye coating on the label side of the disk. Only LightScribe media has this special coating. The key part of this statement is the last sentence, which indicates you must purchase special CDs or DVDs to use in their drives with this technology. However, various color discs were offered, including gold, yellow, orange, green, red, and blue, and it seems like many manufacturers produced them, so it wouldn't have been too hard to obtain these special discs at the time. It also seems that HP was not only targeting the consumer market, but also the industry market too, as seen here, with them advertising industrial-scale LightScribe machines. So what was the verdict? Well, much better than DiscT, as users could actually etch onto the label side of the disk, which is what one would hope for. The images and text were clearly visible, and the technology produced a really nice presentation for the typical end user. It wasn't without its drawbacks, though. The etching did take considerable time once again to complete, and the end result was only in grayscale. There was also the case of potential fading over time, and manufacturing recommended to keep discs away from extreme heat, humidity, and direct sunlight, and to use polypropylene disc sleeves rather than PVC sleeves. PVC sleeves will cause images to degrade over time. While HP was enjoying the initial success of LightScribe, Yamaha, with the collaboration of Fujifilm, were working on their successor to DiscT 2, and in late 2005 they released Labelflash. As per the website, Labelflash allows you to burn monochrome, multi-gradient pictures and/or write titles on the label side of DVD disc that utilize the special writing die developed by Fujifilm Corporation through the use of DVD writers with the Labelflash function. More or less, Labelflash did the same thing as what LightScribe did, but with more limitations in a way. The discs were only available in a blue dye color, and the only media supported was DVDs. While they did mention potential support for CDs, HD DVDs, and Blu-ray discs, that support never came. They also claimed that etching onto the DVDs only took 5 minutes, which, while true in a way, this would have been the draft mode, and not the high quality mode, which is what I would assume most users would have done to produce a crisper image. Labelflash, being formed by 2 Japanese companies, had its public release in Japan 2 years before being available in North America in 2007. At this time, with HP's starting lead, market share, more media options, and less costlier media made them the clear winner for most. However, Labelflash did have one key point for them, and that all their drives were backwards compatible with their DiscT 2 service. Apparently, the etching process was less likely to fade too, due to the DVDs having a special top coating over the engraving. Labelflash seemed to fare better in the home country of Japan, officially discontinuing support in 2017 compared to that of LightScribe, which was discontinued in 2013. With the previous 3 options providing semi-luxurious results depending on your application, one would think these special drives often requiring special media was not the path to take. Were not according to LightOn, who released LabelTag in 2009. LabelTag accomplished the exact same thing that DiscT 2 could, and that was to etch text and graphics onto the unused section of the data side of the media. Any CD or DVD in this case. According to the brochure, it seems like LabelTag was LightOn's comeback towards Labelflash drives with backwards compatibility to DiscT 2. LightOn, who seemed to be partnered with LightScribe, the competitor to Labelflash, most likely couldn't license the DiscT 2 technology as well, so they made their own attempt at it. The end result? Worse than DiscT 2, suffering the exact same problems and turnoffs. In addition, only 2 of their drives ever supported their technology. The software side was even worse, as only their own limited program and special edition of Nero that came bundled with the drive could make it function. In the end, like its predecessors, LabelTag faded away rather quickly too, it seems. Enough of the history, let's get to some physical results. So here are the 3 DVD drives that I purchased from eBay. As you can see from the back of them, each one of them takes the standard SATA data and power connector. Now originally I was going to plug all 3 drives into my computer separately to test them out, but that seemed to be a bit messy with all the different drives and the different wires. So I thought, oh, there's probably a more elegant and neater way to do this. So I went on to the internet, searched a bit, and I ended up finding this. This is the Addonics Storage Tower III, and it allows you to plug up to 3 different 5 1/4 inch drives into the tower. Often used for storage, but should work and operate quite well for the various CD drives. So let's look this up. The now since discontinued, it seems, Storage Tower III from Addonics features 3 standard 5 1/4 inch drive bays and an integrated power supply in a compact, stylish chassis. You can get a variety of port multipliers for the backside, but the one I decided on was the 5-port HPM XU, which allows you to connect up to 5 SATA drives into and read them all via one USB cable or eSATA cable. Looking inside the storage tower, it really looks like just a very miniature computer case, complete with its own power supply. Installing the 3 drives was straightforward as you would imagine. I installed the provided SATA data and power cables into the back side of each of the drive and plugged the other side of the cables into the pre-installed port multiplier in the back of the case. From there I simply screwed in each of the drives, again with the provided screws. The only problem I had was the last screw on the top drive didn't really want to screw in properly. For this project, I have decided to use the program DiscT 3 by Light Software. This software claims to support almost all our drive functions, plus offer templates for disk stickers and even the option for direct CD printing from supported printers. Now this is a well-aged piece of software by this point, and only works as a 32-bit Intel program, which means Mac OS 10.14 Mojave is the last OS version that supports this program. I was able to purchase this cover before Beelight Software removed it from the website and redirected everyone to the Swift Publisher option, which unfortunately doesn't support any of the drives. Don't blame the company though, since all the drives were dependent on 32-bit drivers and firmware, which wouldn't work anyways, even if the program was updated. Each drive should have originally came with bundled software to support their etching functions, while the firmware for DiscT and Labelflash should be built into the drives. LightScribe requires its own driver. Luckily, there is a website, LightScribeSoftware.org, that has a copy of the drivers along with free simple software to use them. If running Windows, in theory all these drives should still work since even the most current Windows version has backwards compatibility for 32-bit software. However, you might have to do a bit of digging to find old versions of disk burn-in software that can still support these devices. Since my modern MacBook Pro can't run disk cover, I will be using my ordered late 2009 MacBook running 10.9.5. aka OS X Mavericks. We will first be testing the LightScribe drive. As mentioned before, there is a variety of different disk colors that you could choose, but for this I'm gonna go with the more traditional beige color. As you can see, this disk took about 18 minutes to fully complete. With the results from LightScribe looking pretty nice, let's now move on to Labelflash, which as you can see takes just about as long to print as LightScribe, just a couple minutes more, coming in at 20 minutes in total. Besides taking quite a while to complete each disk, I thought this process was going very well, considering the array of drives coupled together using old software on a somewhat modern computer. That was until this happened. Yes, it seems that the software of my Labelflash drive was not fond of trying to use DiscT with my CD. I thought maybe the disk had to be burned first, since that was how the original software was intended to be used. So I made a simple text file and burned it on. Still, the software didn't like it. Looking at the error, it seemed that I had to use a DVD, not CD, even though DiscT should support both. With the DVD inserted, I again got the message that the disk needed to be burned first, which again I did, and still it wouldn't work. After a few more attempts of various media, I just couldn't get it to work. And looking at the manual that came with disk cover, it doesn't even make a mention of the DiscT feature or even Labelflash at all. Just LightScribe. So perhaps there is some kind of underlying software issue. We will come back to this a bit later on. Now, for those of you who have been paying close attention, you might have noticed that there is no option in disk cover for LabelTag. In fact, there was no software ever released for Mac which supported it. It was Windows only. LightOn actually does still host on their website the SmartPack software, which works for designing and engraving via LabelTag. I did initially try to run the software via crossover on my MacBook. After all, another individual was successful running it under Linux this way. However, my attempt failed. It seemed that in my case, crossover wasn't picking up any of my external or internal CD drives, even when I manually added the paths in the configuration settings. So off in a different path we go. I managed to get an old Acer TravelMate 4200 laptop running Windows XP, which should work well for this. Now, what I found interesting when using the SmartPack software is that when I first inserted a regular silver disk, the software screen was almost unreadable when entering text. When a blue dye disk is inserted, the software detects this and changes the screen to add more contrast. Another thing to note is that SmartPack only supports one image at a time, and you can't manually reposition it. So I had to adjust my image from before to make it look better. Lastly, be sure to make sure your disk has not been finalized, otherwise the software refuses to work. One positive to the software is that it seemed to take less than 3 minutes to complete. While the blue dye disk wasn't too bad, I also created a silver dye disk, which was barely viewable. For DiscT, Nero software should have been able to work with the drives with full editing compatibilities. However, I couldn't seem to get any version of the software to properly detect the drives and work. So I am left with Yamaha's free basic software, which is very limited and you can only choose from pre-made templates. At first, I didn't think the software was going to work again, as DiscT section was faded out. However, I realized the disk must be fully burned first, so upon inserting a different disk, the option was now available, and I could proceed. I was actually quite surprised at the result, as it seemed very well produced. But that most likely comes down to the specific die used in the disc once again. So you're probably thinking to yourself, those are some neat ideas, but they're not very practical. I mean, they're in grayscale, they're using old hardware, old software. You probably can't even get it to run on a modern computer. Is there an option? And color would be nice. And there is. If you get yourself any printer that can print on CDs, such as this Epson Premium XP-7100. So it appears that after all the manufacturers' various attempts to persuade consumers to use their specialty drives and discs over traditional disc stickers and direct printing, they have failed, and we are back to where we have started. Now, to be fair, printing and media has come a long way since the early 2000s. Consumers can now easily purchase various types of stickers, including colored, glossy, water-resistant, and more. Many printers now come with special inks that are smudge, water, and sun-resistant. As expected, direct-to-CD printing produced the most professional results. I picked up this pack of CD stickers from a local thrift store. It only cost $1, and they still seem to be quite sticky after who knows how many years. I had never used a CD sticker applicator before, so it took a couple of tries. Even then, the sticker ended up a bit bubbly as shown. With more practice, you could most likely get a much more professional result, but this is one of the downsides still for stickers. And here are all of the various discs we created. Each is unique in its own way. For the non-conventional methods, I would pick LightScribe myself as the winner, as it produced the best contrast in images. Labelflash seems too glossy to properly display the images, and both Disk Tattoo and LabelTag, well, are completely pointless. Honestly, if you are in the market for printing multiple discs, I would just spend a bit extra and get a printer that natively supports. Otherwise, just stick to the stickers, which can produce a very nice display on their own. Let me know in the comments which method you like the best. So that concludes our first video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.